Here we are. So thanks all for coming. Um, Today session, if you read the email, you'll see the pointer for today really is allowing, and this follows on from our sort of 5-part back to basics series that we did. And this is, I guess, is a little bit of what I'd call fine tuning in our meditation. But it also has, like most of the benefits of meditation, it has some real power to transform how we see, think, and act in the world as well. So it's not just something that we're doing on the cushion. It's something that we're gradually bringing into our lives as well. So what happens when we allow things to be as they are, generally speaking, there's a sense of peace that comes with that, even if the experience itself is not peaceful. So this is what we call giving space to our experience, giving space to our emotions, giving space to other people, giving space to life to be as it is. And where it's helpful is to first recognize, I guess, when we're not allowing and what that feels like. What does it feel like to resist? What does it feel like to deny or to turn away from what's happening? And essentially, it's an energetic thing. It's something we can feel in our bodies and in our emotional body. Is a form of resistance, and resistance in the mind, which is essentially the opposite of allowing. Resistance feels like tension. So where we're resisting something in our mind or our psyche, we'll be feeling tension in the body. So if we can look at the body, we will find tension spots, and we might find that that's linked to something that we're pushing away or holding on to or trying to change in the world. Now, when we're resisting, we're in the mind, we're pushing energy against what already is here. And this is the thing about it. Whatever we're experiencing in any way, shape, or form, whether it's through the senses, like touch, taste, whether it's a mind phenomenon like imagination or worrying about the future or whatever we're resisting has to be here already. It's already here, whatever that experience is. Otherwise, we wouldn't know it. So we're essentially already in a relationship with it. It's already in front of us. If we can sort of objectify it, this experience is already in front of us. But what we're doing, this is reality. This is the raw nature of reality. Our experience is here, whatever it is. Normally, something suffering based, something we don't want to be happening. It might be something as small as waiting at a traffic light when we're in a rush, or for leaving something behind in the house and shit, I've got to get back in and grab it or whatever, and we sort of have a little bit of angst. Or, scaling it up, it could be losing something, whether it's a possession or someone that we know. And there's a sense that is already the case. The fact that it's here and in front of us is already happened. But what the mind does, it'll say, I don't want that. I want this situation to be different. And in doing so, we're arguing with life. We're arguing with what is. Now, this seems like a very sort of passive way to be if we just allow everything to wash over us. And it's not about not engaging with life, but it's about being aware of the tension and the pressure that we create in the very first instance of something occurring. Because until we surrender, until we allow life to be as it is, we can't move forward. So the way I sort of picture this is something happens. Say someone says something that we don't like, or something that we don't like happens. We then fixate on it. By saying, I don't want this to happen, we've already glued to it. Now, if we let that situation go, it would move on its own. But what we're doing is we're attaching ourselves to it with a preference of some kind, saying, I don't want this to be the way it is. So we're interfering with life, where the mind is attaching itself to it, and in that we feel some kind of discomfort, some kind of suffering. Now, if we're fixated on that thing, that's now already in the past. So our energy has gone into the past and we're fixated on something that we can't do anything about. So the practical sense of this is letting go of that fixation on what should and shouldn't be happening, and focusing then, freeing up our energy. First of all, we're not fixating on this experience, we're releasing it, we're opening up. Then we can make a wise decision about what to do if there is a problem that needs resolving. There's nothing wrong with complaining, with changing something, with asking someone not to do a certain thing. We all have kind of ways in which we want the world to work and to be, and that's fine. But the kind of resistance I'm talking about is a subtle form of resistance. It's felt, well, certainly in my experience, I feel it in my body as a sense of anxiety or a sense of unease. And it's almost like I'm trying to control life a little bit. So, so we're recognizing that it's it's habitual and quite automatic to fall into the trap of resistance, to fall into the trap of trying to change things and trying to change things in a way that doesn't change them. What we're doing, we're trying to change them with thoughts and the mind, and by complaining in the mind about this shouldn't be here. It's not until we recognize that habit and are able to let it go that we're actually freeing up our energy to do something about it, to actually take action, helpful action in the world. And another part of this is, I noticed it in myself today, there's something about being still, something about stopping that the mind doesn't want to do. That part of our conditioning says is wrong. Says that if you stop and be still, then that's incorrect. You must be doing something. You must be, I don't know, getting something done, being productive. Or you stop, and the feeling that you get when you stop isn't a pleasant one. So immediately we reach for distraction. So I sat outside in the sun today. I was waiting for someone to come to work, and the sun had just poked his head out, and I was sat on the wall and feeling the sun on my skin, which is a lovely change given the weather, how it has been. And then immediately my mind was like, oh, what's wrong? Something's wrong. And I was kind of like, oh, I felt a sense of unease. And then I'm starting to distract myself, picking up my phone, looking at Facebook, da da da. There was nothing wrong happening in that moment except how my mind translated it. So my mind said about something about that moment that it was wrong, that was incorrect. I felt uncomfortable and I reached for a distraction. And it came to me then that what's happening in this moment is is always manageable. The only thing that isn't manageable is what our mind says about it. And that's twofold. And the reason is it's manageable is because of what I said already. It's already here. We're already managing it. If we're very present with this experience, if it's an uncomfortable experience, we're already doing it. And there's the other part of that is it's the mind, it's thoughts that say they can't do it. And they're only in the sense of meditation and mindfulness, they're only words. They're only sounds, and they appear to be things. They appear to be strong, real things in the objective world. But actually, it's just a very thin, superficial layer of commentary over what's happening. Now, I always when I'm talking about this stuff, there's always a caveat. There's always this kind of, I think it's like when talking about trauma therapy and stuff, there's a window of tolerance. There's a window of experience where we are able to apply conscious thinking, we're able to handle and manage things as they arise. As soon as things pop out either end of that, it becomes very, very difficult to even consider what mindfulness is. That's not where we're going to be. So there is going to be times when we feel in such a way that we're not able to apply these principles. Okay, and in those times, it's important to recognize this is very temporary and this will be over. This too will pass. This is a storm, and there's nothing wrong with me for not being able to work this out. Mindfulness isn't a magic wand that we can tap any experience with and expect it to change. We are all working within our window. So if there's an experience which is really, really difficult, you'll naturally find that mindfulness isn't the thing that you reach for as a tool to deal with it. But you can, in some sense, be mindful afterwards, and you can bring compassion to that experience. And that's a really important part of what we're doing in mindfulness, and what I try and explain to people is we're not always going to be good at it. We're not always going to be able to do it. And that's why we need to be compassionate about it. So, where was I? Yeah, so we're all working within, the caveat is this is the window we're working in. So if you're having a particularly highly stressful moment, and you might try, okay, bringing some mindfulness into that, bringing some allowing, acceptance, letting go, and it might still feel horrendous. You might be too distracted, you might be too uncomfortable, you might be in too much pain. Could be any of the experiences that we go through just on a really high level. And that isn't necessarily the time to be relying on a new skill like mindfulness. The thing is, if we practice mindfulness and meditation regularly, that window starts to expand. So before we're operating in here, and most of what's happening is happening outside that window of our manageability, if you like, over time, as we practice the techniques, more and more is included in that experience. And we might probably always have some stuff that we slip out of consciousness with, and we don't handle in a helpful way. We find ourselves after the event going, what the hell happened there? What did I do that for? And again, it's about compassion, and it's about recognizing that even in those moments that have passed and have gone, we can bring mindfulness to that as well afterwards. Recognizing that it's gone, that it taught us something, and we'll learn from that experience as well. There's no wrong turns in this. So I think that's all I've got to say about that. The meditation itself, it's an allowing meditation. So we're not going to set it up too much. We're not going to do any prelims, but allowing is essentially letting go of control of what we want to be happening in the moment. And it's almost a not doing. It's almost like we're not doing it. To allow things to be, we don't have to do anything. But because of the mind and the way it behaves, it kind of jumps in and gets involved. So all we're doing is reminding ourselves just to let go, to relax and to open. Each time that we notice we're caught up in thinking, we're caught up in rumination, self-judgment, it comes up a lot during meditation. Well, the thoughts, I'm not very good at this. I'm too distracted. And all we do, it doesn't matter what those thoughts are made of, what the content of those thoughts are saying. If it's the greatest thought ever, we're not interested. We just open and let it go. So we're not pushing it away, we're not moving our attention, we're just opening, we're resting back. And this is where it goes a little bit deeper, is our experience is, it feels like a relationship. There's what's happening, in our lives, everything that we experience, all the sort of objective reality is happening. But there's also the place in which that is happening. The place in which all experience arises is our awareness, is consciousness. And don't worry if this doesn't make too much sense. If you've not heard this terminology before, it might just be a little bit vague and difficult to understand. So don't worry too much. But essentially, whatever we're noticing has the prerequisite of awareness to notice it. So whatever's arising, whatever we're knowing, is being known by awareness. There's some, you might call it light or consciousness, awareness, spaciousness. There's some place, there's some sort of difficult to describe energy that gives birth to everything that we can see and hear. And the nature of that awareness is peacefulness. So when we stop interfering with the objects of our experience, we start to fall back into awareness itself. But don't worry too much about that if it doesn't make too much sense. It'll make sense through experience, not through words. So I'll leave it there as far as the talk goes. Has anybody got any questions? No? Then in that case, we'll get into the meditation. I'll do about 20 minutes. And then that'll give us time to have a bit of a chin wag about it afterwards. So just setting up your posture. Now, it's helpful to have a posture which either sitting up or laying down, but one that allows you to stay alert, but also to really relax. So we can start this letting go just by letting go of any tension in the body, letting go of any unnecessary holding. And then just scanning the body and again just letting go of any unnecessary holding and tension. And then the same for the mind. Letting go of any tension in the mind, any need to pursue an experience, any need to change anything. This allowing is allowing each moment to be as it is, each experience to be as it is, without expectation, without judgment. It might be helpful just to become aware of the breath and just noticing how the breath comes in and out of the body. Noticing the sensations of the breath. We're not changing the breath. We can just allow the breath just to flow very naturally. And we just observe it. We just watch it, feel it, giving giving it space. And we use the breath like an anchor, just to keep us grounded, to keep us centered, but we don't focus so hard on the breath. We open our awareness, open our attention, so that the breath is at the center of our experience, but not the whole of our experience. And you'll have noticed already, I'm sure, that the mind will have produced some thoughts, and our attention will have been absorbed in that story in that movie, either for a short moment or for a long time. So it's our only job just to notice that, and actually giving that experience space to be here. It's not wrong. The mind isn't wrong. We can allow the mind to do what it needs to do. We might become a little bit more aware of the breath as we rest back into this experience of being. This being here requires no effort at all. We're already here. It's only ever thoughts that will say otherwise. So this allowing, this extends to the sounds around us. If there's some background noise, we can just allow that to be, allowing it to pass through our experience. We don't have to stop sounds, we don't have to change the background noises, we can just allow them to arise and to fall because that's what they do anyway. It's an opportunity if there is some unwelcome background noise, there's always an opportunity to notice the difference between the sound itself and what the mind says about the sound. What the stories that the mind makes up about the sounds. Remembering here that you're not the mind, you're not the thoughts. They're just part of the scenery here. Thoughts are rising and falling like the sounds. They have only as much meaning as we give them, as much energy as we provide them. And we can bring this allowing into the physical felt sense of the body, or awareness of sensations of the body. Noticing what's here. And allowing this body to be exactly how it is right now. We might notice that these sensations of the body are always changing. We may ask ourselves, what is my experience of sensations right now? As we open to whatever arises. And we rest back and give space to these sensations, even if they're not what we want. And wherever we are right now, whatever experience we're having, can we let go of it, allow it, allowing it to move or to stay here, giving it space. Could be a sound, it could be a thought, could be a sensation, or maybe an emotion. What emotions are we aware of right now? Can we allow those to be here? Sometimes we need to bring some forgiveness in. Forgiveness for feeling this way, forgiveness for thinking these things. This forgiveness is a way of freeing up our energy, of allowing life to move again. Remembering every experience we're having is already here, otherwise we wouldn't be having it. Can we practice letting it be? Trusting life and trusting ourselves that we can manage, that we can face what this moment is made of. We've only ever got to manage this moment. And just spending the last few minutes of this practice in silence. Our only job really in this next few minutes is just to notice the arising of any tension. It might be physical, emotional, or mental. And once we recognize it, we give it space. We open and allow it to be here. Remembering there's no expectation that our experience should be anything other than what it is right now. It's all allowed. There's nothing that exists that's outside of this sphere of allowing. And spending the last few moments of this meditation practice in our usual way of recognizing that the benefits of this practice are the benefits of mindfulness, of giving ourselves space and time, isn't just a benefit to us, but is a benefit to those closest to us, to people that we meet out and about on the street or at work. When we allow things to be, we bring peace. When we allow ourselves to be as we are, we're automatically allowing others to be as they are. Just allowing the sound of the bell to signal the end of the practice. And very gently and slowly and in your own way, starting to move the body again, might be fingers and toes. Just feeling the energy of movement once again.